Hey, welcome back. My name is Unveiled, and today I want to talk with you about I want to share principles. I want to share these three practices and areas in my life that allow me to be consistent, that allows me to have a sustainable lifestyle in the areas of my life that I desire, and how we can create a life of intention. So I want to share these three things with you, and I want to kind of build it on the framework around a quote, a scripture. So I want to share this scripture. Let's go with my favorite. All right, so we're going to do a fill in the blank here. It's going to be blank is within her. Let's make her capital. She will not, too close, fail. Now, if I were to fill this in, it would say God is within her. That is the actual scripture. She would not fail. However, being a former public school teacher, working with thousands of students in different backgrounds, I've worked with Muslims, atheists, and we've had conversations. The goal was never about what you believed in. As here on I Am and in this platform, it is all about self. Because I believed in God. I believe in God. I was a Christian, and growing up with these practices and principles around who God is, I was missing me. I did not understand who I was. I didn't understand the power that I have. So this is not about what you believe in as a higher power and a source for your life, but this is most importantly about who you are, because without you, everything else is confusion and chaos, and there's no well-being. So the goal is to leave here empowered to understand, like, you can be consistent in every area of your life if you focus and think about these three things. So number one, I would say, I think there's a lack of desire. So I really want you to think about this word desire. Oftentimes people say maybe lack of goals, lack of wants. There's a desire. It's something about that word desire. It's something that comes from, I say, the bosom, the womb. It comes from your soul. These are the things that push you towards your greatness. And you really need to think about, I believe when we think about the word fail, and this word, there's a quote that talks about success goes on for failure and for failure without, losing hope. We're going to fail. I failed at many things, but what I'm talking about is overall, example. There was a gentleman I was speaking to one time, and, we were both in the education program in school, and we were talking about, he moved and he left the education field and said, I really wanted to be a teacher. That's what I wanted to do growing up, but I couldn't pass that praxis. And I laughed and chuckled to myself because I just I wanted to be a teacher. And I failed the praxis twice, passed on the third time. They could have gave me that test 20 times. I was going to pass it at some point because I had a desire to be a teacher. There's a difference between wanting something and having a desire for it. And my desire on this platform is that we all raise our level of awareness and take accountability for our life and tap into the beautiful being that you are. You have so much power. And so the desire is going to have to come from something you truly want. And I believe the why. When it comes to lack of desire, oftentimes, what's your why? Why? Why do you want to lose weight? Why did I want to become a teacher? I've wanted to be a teacher ever since I was little, and I did it for 15 years in the public school system, but the desire was burning from, truly now that I understand my calling and I'm in more communion, I can articulate it. But back then it was just a desire. It was something in your soul, the things when you just can't stop thinking about, and it's coming from a healthy place. I did not know why I wanted to be a teacher. Besides, I truly believe the gift that God's given me to impact this world and other people, and using the gift of teaching and knowledge and my own life experiences to help in that capacity. And that's what I did. That's the type of teacher I was. I was a home ec teacher, so I taught from my life skills place, practical experiences. I made sure my students had experiences that impacted not only themselves in that classroom, their social and emotional learning, but their families. I gave them homework assignments that had nothing to do with reading and writing. They were going home and impacting their families by cooking a healthier meal, helping their parents, saying thank you, writing letters to even parents and family members in jail. Healing, because our community needs healing, and it's through the power of self-love, understanding who we are. And I'm on a tangent, sorry. Let's go back to it. Lack of desire. So what's your why? What is your why for wanting to lose weight? What is your why for wanting to get that job? What is your why for wanting to move? If you can't be consistent through the process, then your why probably is not big enough, or you really don't have a desire. So I really want to challenge you to think about your why. Be intentional. I think our life should be intentional. This why, intentional. So when we have a desire for something, we know why we're doing it. Then the second thing here, I want to say be intentional. This is extremely important because when we're not intentional about something, we can easily give up, fail, whatever word we want to put here, stop, quit. We can easily do that. And we have to be intentional about, well, I want to give an example where I actually did intentionally quit. I intentionally quit grad school. I was 36, 35, teacher, as I said, and, climbing the ladder, going into principalship. I was in the curriculum and instruction program, and I had made my first I had 4 A's. I remember had a great environment, working with other teachers, collab, and one day I was sitting there, I said, Unveiled, you don't want to do this. You do not want to be a principal. I really didn't. The politics, I didn't want to do it. I wanted to be with my babies. I stayed in the classroom, and now I'm here. I quit the program. I just said it, and it was being paid for by my school. So my desire was I wanted to be out of the classroom by 40. That was something I had told myself. That was a desire, but then there's things that'll come along in our life and we get confused and think that's part of the plan. But when we're in tune with ourselves and we stay true to who we are, our gut will speak to us. The God in us will speak. The whatever's in you will speak. Whatever is within you will speak. Whatever is within you, that's why we don't fail, because what is within you, you won't fail. Understand the source of your power. So, lack of desire, why am I doing it? And then I have to be intentional about why. I wasn't intentional. I wanted to climb the ladder. That wasn't enough. Like, who gave me that idea? What does climbing the ladder even mean? So, again, back then, thinking about the truth, like we're told to get your, undergraduate, go to college, all these things that society gives. And I'm not knocking grad school. There's many women in my program, in school, grad school. I'm cheering them on, and I hope they do well. But why? Why are you there? And for me, that was not it. So that was an example of being intentional about why, and I intentionally quit. So quitting or stopping is an option, but it is not an option if we just quit unintentionally, like, oh, I'm tired, or I don't want to do this, or I'm not good enough, or I'm invaluable, or I don't have a good enough community, which leads us to the second thing. Once we have our desire, we know our why, we're intentional about what we're doing, we need clarity and direction. So let's go with our pink again. We need clarity and direction. So number 2, clarity and direction. Now, clarity and direction is very important because once we're here, like, how do we move forward? How do we continue to show up and go to the gym? How do we continue to, eat healthy? Whatever our journey is, how do we continue to show up to the job? And let's just be real. There's about 3 areas in our life that we all are seeking. Financial wellness, we want to have. How do we continue to, we're on a saving, we're trying to save or be aware of our money, be conscious about our consumerism, healthy relationships, and that's with self, our wellness, fitness. So there's, relationships, money, and then our well-being, physical, emotional health. Those are the 3 main areas. However, we do understand in our career and in our life, we're going to all have different things. But in this, what's the clarity and direction? Now, how do we do this? For me, I would say we need support. This is where the support is very important. Your environment. Environment. Now, this is your support system. First, we have to think about, what environment are we in? Remember, I was talking about when I was in the grad school, my environment was supportive. I was in a great community, but it was the gut check. Even though we're in healthy environments, sometimes we still have to make our own decisions. That's another struggle, but that's another conversation. But we're talking about, once we know where we're going, environment. And we can talk about that here because that's also important. Like, oftentimes we think of environments as always being bad or toxic, and that's not always the case. Sometimes we're in really healthy environments, good people supporting us, but supporting us through their own lens, supporting the goals that we don't even want for ourselves. So environments are twofold. It's A, do I have healthy people around me? And B, with healthy people being around me, am I still showing up as myself? Am I still able to have a conversation? Oh, that's not quite what I want to do. Oh, y'all going this way, I'm going to go that way. So clarity and direction is so important. If you're showing up to the gym for class and your friend's showing up to get on the weights, I'll see you after my class. Sometimes we get in there, we start doing weights, and then we haven't even fulfilled what we came in there for. Your environment is so important, and being true to who you are, even more important. So We know what toxicity looks like. We know what bad relationships look like, people who don't support us, friendships that don't empower us. But I would say get in environments that support your goals. If you're in group fitness class, which I started there, I used to do Zumba classes all the time, and I did call my girlfriend up and we would do the Zumba classes together. That was very important because that allowed me some accountability. Support is extremely important, and yes, we should get that in our family. But again, when we go on this type of, we're talking about goals. We're talking about personal goals, not family goals, not intentional goals, not saving a seat at church and we're all there. That's great. We can do that. But I'm talking about the goals that take you away from your family in a place, not bad, but so you can come back and get them, support them as well, for most of us, or do this thing called life together in a healthy way. So this is what I'm speaking about, you being intentional about a goal that you've set. God is within her, she will not fail. Whoever's within you, she will not fail. Why? Because we know why we're doing something. We're intentional. We have clarity and direction, which comes from our environment and support first. And the second thing is you need a plan. Everything is a plan. You can call it plan, plan. You can call it routine, regimen. Honey, there are so many words in the dictionary, but honey, we can get about 30 and have a full conversation. We depend on the environment, what we need to use. But I'll just say, truth is, we need a plan. Once you have the support system around you, and sometimes you don't have support. I'm just be truthful on that piece there. It may not feel like support. People are always there to support you, but you got to realize, what do I mean by support? Like-minded, goals, mindset. So that's something you got to really think about. But the plan, what am I putting in place? What am I putting in place? What am I putting in place? What's my routine? I speak a lot to fitness, and food is very universal, and I think all of us are on some type of wellness journey. We should be moving our body every day, being conscious about what we consume. So what does that look like for you? I've had different routines and plans and regimens depending on the season in my life. That's important too. Understanding how can we be consistent. The way that we can be consistent throughout our fitness and food journey is to understand the season that we're in. In the summertime, things bloom. In the winter times, it's a time for regrowth, reflection, things dying so that they can come back and spring back to life. So we have to understand our seasons. Not every season is going to feel like gravy. We're not riding that gravy train all the time. So we, again, just being aware of the season that we're in and plan accordingly. Sometimes we're trying to start something in our 20s, trying to do it through motherhood, trying to do it while getting married, trying to do it while transitioning. No, the plan is going to change, honey. And that's important too, because when we don't have a plan, we end up failing because we're trying to do the same thing through every season of our life. And I think that's very common, especially in food and fitness industry, like that arena of our lives. Like, I started working out and started this just wellness in my life in my 20s. I did, and that's why I'm here sharing with you. No matter what decade you're in, it doesn't matter. Start. And when I started, I was like, I do not care what happens. I worked out the day before my pregnancies, both of them. One of them a day before my pregnancy. I was in labor the next day, still on my same. I did not stop working out. I didn't go online and look up to see if I could work out in my 30s while pregnant. I didn't start. I didn't start thinking differently. I stayed true to the mindset, and I trusted the process. God is within her. She will not fail. Whatever is within you, whoever you believe, you got to believe that that's with you every season of your life. And I didn't want to miss. I wrote down things I did not want. And you got to be true to it. You got to be honest. Like, what do you really want? And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to be healthy by being pregnant. That should be everybody's wish. But if we want that, what do? Are we staying true to the goals and the plans that we've set before we were pregnant, after we were pregnant, before we were married, while we were married? Are we shifting things, or are we staying true to the plan, the routine, and regimen? And understanding there will be a pivot when we go through transitions, okay? And transitions, again, look like I'm just speaking to women and, pivot. Men, if you're here. But the pivot, the transition, it just depends, okay? So clarity and direction comes from our environment support. What's your plan? What's your routine? What's your regimen for whatever you're doing? All right, and the last thing is sustainability. This is key, I think, for me. How do we sustain this thing so we don't fail? I kind of hit on it. Sustainability, misspelled that thing. Sustainability. Disclaimer, honey, on this on this journey. Excuse me if you see anything misspelled. This is just what we do here. Nothing about perfection. The goal is to help you, to inspire you, to encourage you, and empower you to be you and stay true on this thing. So the last thing is sustainability. This is an area in my life that I really, like when I started, like I had a desire to maintain. I just didn't want to. I'm very intentional about things I choose because I understand that, as I love to say, my grandmother says, you know, if you're going to do something, do it. Give it your all. Like, we are excellence, and I believe in the standard of excellence. And so I wanted to do things throughout my life. I didn't want to just, if you're working out just to get to the class reunion, okay, that's great, but continue after the class reunion. You know, I wanted to be healthy my entire life, through every decade. I wanted to have a mindset of abundance and get around the people who could help me and help me grow in that area through every decade. I didn't want to retire and have money. I want to have kids and be married and have money, or whatever the lifestyle you desire. I want to have money through every decade. I don't want to retire and travel. I want to travel my entire life. Every decade, everything to me, what I wanted it to be sustainable. So once I start something, I want to be able to follow through with it. And I think this is so important. And because because this is so important, how do we sustain the lifestyle that we desire and not quit and not fail? I would say, for sure, I love this word. We're going to talk more about it, but it's grit. Grit is that's my word. Because for me, that's the power of discipline. Grit means the ground, you know, the gravel, the earth. That's the etymology of it, but the essence of who we are, the ability to rise up, the ability to get up. You know, if something's always easy, of course we can sustain it. But when the thing becomes challenging, whatever your thing is, becomes challenging, it is the grit and the resilience that allows us to move through. And what I can promise you this, and I speak from my own experiences, when you strengthen that grit muscle, life does not get easier. We just become more mature and more skilled, and there's different skills. Grit is a skill set. A lot of people, and for me, my heart goes to us as women. Like, this skill is not practiced. My mentor says, I don't train princesses, I train warriors. And I know I'm a warrior spirit. Like, that has nothing to do, because the look gonna come through, you know, the nurture spirit. You know, we can grow in every area, but the truth is, like, I believe resilience is a key ingredient that's missing, especially in our day and time, you know, with young women. My heart goes out to them, but just understanding the power of grit that's given to us in our lives. You know, my mentor, she talks a lot about it because she was in the military for 15 years. I believe my grit came from my childhood, having to rise above things early. Lots of people's grit, and I talk about this, you know, being raised with a silver spoon, that has an advantage. But I didn't have a silver spoon. You know, I want wealth. I want something different. So when you kind of come from it, not so much hard knock. I didn't grow up. I guess I didn't. There's a lot of things I didn't grow up seeing and experience, but the grit doesn't mean you came up in poverty, doesn't mean you had to experience some type of abuse. It means that you experienced a challenge. And I'm talking about something that was emotionally warring on you. You had to stand in the face of adversity. You had to make decisions that were for you. And you've got to practice that muscle, and it is not a fight. It feels like a fight, but we got to go at war within to experience peace without, okay? So I would say, to sustain anything, you need grit, and it has to be practiced. Going to the gym is gritty. Lifting something heavy is gritty. It builds these muscles. I always say, again, it started in my childhood just by, and that season, unfortunately, was more of a, seems rebellious, like I'm doing this anyway. I understand that's how you feel, but this just doesn't work for me. I don't know why I had to be born in this type of way, like this is controlling. And then that kind of carried into my 20s. It's more like, okay, you can't fight everybody who wants to lead you. You can't, you know, people that want to control you, understand who they are, but you got to figure out a way to make this work for who you are and find your voice, and allowing the choices of other people and separating yourself from them, however that looks. So, you know, what serves us in a gritty place maybe is in childhood. We want to take that into, still use our grit to grow, not to fight, okay? That's a side note. So the 3 things I would say to establish or to have grit, I would say these are 3 things: awareness, accountability, and action. And what we're going to say, we're going to wrap this up in a bow, these 3 things, 3 things. ability. We're going to put a nice bow. Let's make this thing purple. Affirmation. You got to affirm yourself. Affirm yourself. You know, so we're doing the hard things, the challenging things. We have to be aware that this is what I should be doing, going back to our why, taking accountability for it, going back to our plan, routine, regimen. Okay, I didn't go today, but I'm going to go tomorrow. I don't miss Mondays and Fridays. That's the gym route. That's when I started, not now. But when I started my fitness journey, there was just a regimen, routine. It was like clockwork. I never experienced the Army, but honey, that Army gives you a lot of discipline. It gives you some regimen. It gives you a mindset, honey, it just can change your life. People that have been in the military, you meet them, you can kind of tell. There's pros and cons to everything, but there's a regimen that's just needed, a grit, a hustle to understand, like, we've got to get through this thing. There's a fight for our life. This thing is not play. Okay, sorry. Awareness, accountability, and action, these three things, and then affirmation. This is the nature, nurture, mother. Affirm yourself through this process. Self-compassion, all of those things are needed. Don't beat yourself up. Understand it's a process. Remember, God is within her. She will not fail. Whatever is within you will come out. Plant yourself. Whatever, if this doesn't work, the God that you serve doesn't work, you might need a new God. Now, that's another conversation I had to tell my daddy one day. He was like, oh, God. I said, well, Dad, and that was a hard conversation. I said, Dad, I don't believe we serve the same God. My God is a man of faith. My God is a Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. My God is loving. My God is nurturing. My God will rise from the ashes to the top and rise above it all. My God doesn't fight. My God doesn't want to see ill will on nobody. My God understands that family is the foundation that's given to us to rise, to love, and to create generational wealth. And I just want to remind you, whatever is within you, that is going to be your foundation. I want you to experience the fruit that you rightfully deserve in your life. So, lack of desire, what's your why? Be intentional. If you feel like you're lacking something, go back to your why. Clarity and direction, environment support, plan, routine, regimen. This right here, I believe, will fireproof your life and help you so that you don't feel like you're failing, so that you don't feel like you can't make it, because we can. And every day, give yourself some affirmations. There's so many things out here, tools around affirmations. There's apps. There's so much. Let's stay true to this journey. My name is unveiled. Thank you for joining me today. Like, share, please subscribe, and let's do this thing called life together. Live intentionally full every day. See you next week.